climate action. So, we want to enjoy those of here. If you want to join, it's going to be a panel session at the same time, discussion. We want to change certain narrative on climate action on the ground. So we want to discuss new ways and also document opportunities. So my name is, I work for Africa Center for Climate Action and Rural Development, ACAD for short. This session today will be moderated alongside my dear colleague, Oluwaseyi Ebenezer. So she will be here with me to moderate. Then quickly, I would want to call on our panelists who are here. So I will hand it over to Oluwaseyi to quickly call on the panelists for the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Freeman. Okay, so, sorry about that. Yes, so I will be calling Miss Elizabeth Gio. She is the executive director. Oh, she's the executive director of Gender and Environmental Risk Reduction Initiative. You're welcome.
It's not here. They call this lady.
Okay, number 4. Okay. Yeah, the second on the panelist is Miss Erabana Barry. I'm sorry if I didn't call your name correctly. Theophilus. She works with, she's a community climate expert. You're welcome. Yeah, you can have your seat. The third person on the panel discussion today is Patrick Amabi. He's the head of Operation Prime Initiative for Green Development, PIGD. You're welcome. Can we just start?
So, we have 2-3 other persons who should be on the panel, but they are not here, and we do understand that time, it's not something we have to manage when it comes to meetings like this. So we'll just keep moderating the event and see how best whosoever comes will have the meeting going. So basically, we are actually trying to look at gender and how collaboration. We do know that climate change requires climate solutions, and actions brings about solutions. And these are conversations that we've had for many years. If nothing changes, it's because we are yet to take the right action to bring about the right solution, which is why we are here today. And to our panelists, and we are going to have a panel discussion. Then also we are going to throw the conversation to everyone here as climate experts to make contribution. We are bringing our minds together. We do not want to have regular conversation. There are lots we have known. What changes the narrative in advancing solutions on the ground is our most interest here. So first, I want to quickly throw microphone with this question to Mrs. Elizabeth J.O. This is the topic we are having. Work with local communities. How and what do you think we can advance gender? Then what kind of collaboration do we need? Thank you. You could do that quickly. 4 minutes to be fine.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Jayo. I'm the Executive Director of Gender and Environmental Risk Reduction Initiative. We're based in Nigeria, and we work in Nigeria, but we also collaborate with other civil society organizations at the regional level. And we are also seated on the World Bank Forest Carbon Facility on the CS DevNet as an observer representing African sub-region from the Global South. And so our organization, as the name implies, is a gender-focused organization. And here we are looking at announced perspective of gender that looks at also the interests of men, the interests of women in particular, but also of men that are also vulnerable in some circumstances. And also we address issues relating with livelihoods of men and women and men. And also we target youth because they are the future for tomorrow, and they are in their numbers where I come from in Nigeria. And we know that we need to leverage on their participation also for climate action. So how we can do this is, personally, I want to look at the role of, and the perspective from the role of partnership. The whole of SDGs has one SDG that is partnership. And the SDGs, if we look at it, they are not mutually exclusive, but they are mutually reinforcing. Meaning that one SDG, once achieved, can have implication on several other SDGs. Let's take climate action, for instance. If we look at all the sectors, the climate impacts are wide and cross-cutting and multi-sectoral. The entire earth system, number one, is affected, and so we're talking of the land and its resources being affected. We're also talking of humans, also being affected, and every other thing. And so if you look at that from the perspective of the SDGs, there are several, all of them are tailored to address one sector or the other. So if we partner, that is the most effective way. But then with respect to gender, everything has to be gender responsive. We have to put gender responsiveness at the point at the center of every action of the SDGs, and in particular climate action. Because if we do not, from where I come from, women and men interact with the natural resource environment, natural environment resources in different ways, doing different things, either that are contributing to degradation of the environment or that are enhancing the status of the environment. And so there is a whole lot we can talk, and I will bring it up better. And at the community level, let every climate change action be bottom up. If we concentrate here, even if we at this level we are taking it down, we need to ensure that both women genders are targeted, especially women, who are most instances and in most cases, and where I come from, are not at par with the male gender. And I rest here for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elizabeth. You spoke about partnership. That's the SDG 17, which is very key when we are talking about climate action at the grassroots. You also spoke about that the action, whatever partnership, it should be gender responsive. So thank you very much for that very insightful talk. Okay, so as you were talking, one of our panelists walked in, and in the person of Prince Israel Oreka. I'm sorry if I didn't call your name correctly. Can you please come to the stage? Thank you very much. He is the Executive Director, Connected Advocacy for Youth Empowerment Initiative. Thank you very much. So I will go to Miss Eraba Barry. I will just call you Theophilus, if that is fine, Miss Theophilus. You are a community climate expert. So that means you've worked in the community for so long, and you are the right peg in the right hole for this topic. So I want to ask, what do you understand by these topics, and what do you think we should do at the community level to foster climate action? You have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Era Banabai Theophilus, and I'm a community climate expert. I'm talking about advancing gender participation. I would want to say about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, there was a huge gender gap. But recently, in recent years, gender issues has gotten more attention and it has become more mainstreamed. So I would say, bringing it down to where I'm coming from the Niger Delta parts of Nigeria, our issues are peculiar. We are struggling with crude oil spills on our lands. Our farmlands have been claimed by these oil spills and our waters have been contaminated. So our issues are peculiar. And in as much as we have started to mainstream gender issues, I feel like more work needs to be done intentionally, because we need to be in the center of decision making. We need to be in the middle of policies. We need to be in negotiation rooms, because if we're not there, there's no way our issues can be addressed. How will world leaders know that our women are struggling with breast cancer, increasing cases of breast cancer, infertility amongst our women? So these are issues that if we are not on the table, these issues cannot be handled and tackled. So I would say that we need multi-stakeholder collaboration to achieve achieve climate action goals. So yeah, I would say we need more focus on gender issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You spoke about bridging the gender gap at the community level and the need for multi-stakeholders approach. I also want to chip in that most times this community women, they don't really understand what exactly climate change is and how it's impacting their lives. So with that, I will move to the next speaker, Mr. I'm sorry, number. Yes, the next speaker, sorry. So in your work at the community level, how do you make sure that the message is passed to this community at the community level correctly? You know, most times it's always very difficult to talk about climate change and environmental issues at the community. So what are the things, how do you communicate properly at the local level? Thank you. Okay,
my name is Patrick. I may be innocent. I'm the head of operation for Prime Initiative for Green Development. Prime Initiative for Green Development is a youth-led organization, and we are centered in community engagement. To your question, over the years, we discovered that most times CSOs goes into these communities with ambiguous languages. When you explain to the woman in the rural community about climate change and you're using terms like anthropogenic, they don't get to understand it. So you have a lot of community engagement happening in the communities, then afterwards, no impact because this message are not clearly passed. So what we do at Prime Initiative is we try as much as we can to engage the community, and we explain climate change in terms of the peculiarity of the community. I'll give a clear example. We went to a community a few months back before heading to COP. It's a fishing community, right? And when we got to the community, we were hosted by the community people, and they gave us a bowl of soup. Now, the lady was stating that in those days, when visitors come, they give them a very big fish, but they can't find those fishes anymore. Now that built up the discussion, and we were like, okay, why can't you find those fishes anymore? Now she does not know that this is as a result of climate change, that these species are now migrating as a result of temperature rise in the sea. So most times when we go to those communities, we find the peculiarity of that community and we build on it. Oftentimes too, we engage with young people who will be able to pass those messages across to us. Like for example, when we went to a community impacted by oil spill in Ogoni, there was a language barrier. These people don't understand English very well. So what we did is we had to train some set of young guys on climate change. Now we are now our voice to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that input is very useful to us. So while talking, we had one of our foremost gender activists, Mrs. Titi Akosa, walked in. You could find your way to the panel table. Thank you very much. So I would quickly take on one question from Israel, but I think one of our panelists is about exiting because she has an interview somewhere. So we just want you to give us your last intervention before I go to Israel. What are some of the challenges do you find on ground? I'm taking this question now to Theophilus. How do you think we could, what are some of the biggest challenges you have identified on the ground, and how do you think these challenges can be bridged? Okay. Just 3 minutes.
Yeah, I think our local women in the frontline communities, I think they are beginning to understand what climate change means, but it's just on the periphery. So I feel that we need to get into capacity building and awareness, just so they can understand the ever-changing nature of climate change crisis. Yeah, and of course, they have lots of barriers. They have cultural barriers. A lot of them are not able to speak when men are speaking. A lot of them are not able to express themselves, and yet they are the most disproportionately affected group of people. And so we need to train their capacity. We need to support them, be a voice to them, and amplify their voice so that their story can be heard. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to move straight to, mornings like this, there are a lot of conversation, a lot of people having meetings. So, but I'm going to take this question to Israel Orieka. Israel, you'll be working with young people on the ground. What do you see is affecting young people from not taking the right climate action, and why youth are still not well adequately mainstreamed in this climate space, and what do you think is the way forward?
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. My name is Siriman Prince Israel. I work with Connected Advocacy. Your question is apt. One, there is a closed civic space. In a sense, when I talk about closed civic space, I'm talking about the space is not actually open to allow young people participate willfully and also contribute towards climate action. So, not until we bridge that gap to ensure there is inclusivity, community organizing, bringing everybody together to tackle the impact of climate change. I say climate change is an issue that concerns all. So we should together put our hands on deck to mitigate the impact of climate change. For young people have energy, young people are innovative, young people can be constructive, but if these energies are not channeled towards the right direction, towards capacity building, knowledge management, and system sharing, we're still going to have them not being useful. In the work we do, we have like 2 projects we are working on. The POS project. Purpose is protect, unite for a safer environment. This was run by young people. And we took a survey that out of 10 of young people, only one has a full grasp of the knowledge of climate change. So we had to begin to do more of attitudinal changing, mindset shift, and capacity building to first understand what is the issue, because if they don't understand, contributing towards the fight against climate change is just like a mirage. So this puts us to begin to gather young people towards empowering them with the right information. This we do through schools. We work with University of Benin to also reach out to those in the university as well, to improve the knowledge and better understanding on how to mitigate climate change. And also at the community level, we work with Madam Titi, the 21st century, because she's a gender activist. We have a project we call Community Consultation on Net Zero. How many people understand the concept of net zero? And this, we find out that if community people knowledge are built, that is one of the strongest tools towards mitigating climate change. And these people are often neglected. Their issues and concerns are not mostly taken into consideration in decision and policy makings like this, in this kind of space. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you very much. So if I hear you clearly, and I'm sure our colleagues who are listening here will hear you say the place of capacity building and knowledge sharing. So those are the two key things we have actually identified, you said, to be deployed to young people. So at this point, we would like to excuse Theophilus so that you can go, attend to. Thank you very much for coming. So you could just move. We'll take at that seat. So, Titi.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Freeman. I also want to add that it's a bit saddening that the youth that will be most affected by this problem don't really understand the situation. So you are doing a great work. Thank you. On that note, I will move to Madam Kosa. She's the Executive Director, Center for 21st Century Issues. Ms. Titi, you've been working in this space, and that is gender space, for so long. And how have you been able to mainstream gender into climate action? And I want to hear your stories. I want to know what you've been doing, and what do you think we can do more? What are the challenges of mainstreaming gender into climate action? And are we there yet? Do we still need more? Do we still have more to do to achieve this issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Titi Akosa. I'm the Executive Director of Center for 21st Century Issues. Well, let me start from the last question. There's still a lot to be done. And the reason is because no matter what policy documents we have stating that gender will be mainstreamed, I think it should interest you that when we look at policy papers that talks about gender, most of the time you see one line, gender will be mainstream across board. So that was enough for people to say they've mainstreamed gender. And these days we are going deeper because the devil is always in the details. How do we drive down? How do we pull it deep into what we are doing? How do we make sure that we are not taking gender as an add-on? Of course, now people have moved away from making gender an afterthought. Now we are saying we want to be intentional about putting gender in all our policy papers and in all our climate actions. Fine. I think we have moved away from the time where gender was not considered to now people are well aware that gender needs to be mainstreamed, integrated in everything that we do. Whether it is capacity building, whether it is adaptation, whether it is mitigation, global stock take, just transition. I think people are getting settled about that. But people are not yet settled about what the details are in those spaces. For instance, I'll tell you that when the GCF started, of course, in their governing instrument, it says that they will consider gender. That was the first climate finance institution that started intentionally with gender. But by the time funding proposals started coming, of course, people started giving one lines in their project proposal. Nobody is putting in budget to actually say that this is what we want to really do about gender in this project, and this is how much it's going to cost. So for most of us who were in the space, we advocated and insisted that now let us think around having a gender action plan attached to any funding proposal. Yes, people did it. They started doing it. But we found out that it's so easy for people to go online and then download gender reports of different countries and say, yes, we have done a gender assessment of Uganda, we have done a gender assessment of Nigeria, and this is our gender action plan. So some of the gender action plan that is done based on internet research. How does it corroborate to what is happening on ground? So most of the time, when they get on ground, they find a different reality entirely. Then we start all over again. You understand? And then they start, okay, we want to do another gender assessment at the level of implementation. That is for those who actually care, understand, to say, okay, we are truly interested in mainstreaming gender. So they go back, they do another assessment to be real, you understand? Because in between funding proposals and then the time the funding proposals was approved, and by the time money came out for you to start implementation, issues have changed. So you still have to go back and start redo what you have done before the funding proposal. And then, you see, most of the time, we think that because we have a gender action plan, it's a bulletproof that we have done gender. That's not it. You see, at every step of implementation, you continue to assess yourself. Have we done enough for men and women, young men and young women in the space? Did we put them as part of the stakeholders? Did we listen to their issues and concerns? And when we listen to their issues and concerns, did we take account of them in our implementation? See, gender mainstreaming is a living thing. It's not a dead thing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we would like, no, you could have that. I think she deserves an applause on that, really.
I'm really sorry, I have to leave.
Yeah.
I have an interview. Thank you so much.
So, thank you so much. So, we are happy to further this conversation. So, hearing Titi clearly, we do understand that people just adopt reports, and it's becoming very rhetoric in a way that we say we want to mainstream gender. I've seen there is no proposal you write today without proper reflection of gender, whether for women, for young girls, or for local community. It has become a professional ethics whereby they put gender, and she made mention of actual implementation. So we need to start thinking and reassessing our approach to gender, because in climate action we know there's also climate politics, and this thing is taking so much energy, and our governments, especially in Africa, do not respect certain aspect of the gender. They are more interested in the money. So this question will go straight to Mrs. Elizabeth J.O. You have supported the government of your country, Nigeria, in developing certain gender document, and the problem is still deep with the population in Nigeria, for example, and the way gender is still being perceived. What do you think can be done? Not what has been done. The new ways. What do we do to ensure gender is well mainstreamed at that level?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start by saying that I earlier mentioned that for climate action in general, we need to ensure it is gender responsive. Everything about climate change response. That's the beginning point. And so in Nigeria, let me say, fast forward to when the Paris Agreement was signed into, Operation countries were mandated to do their own gender action plans. And in Nigeria, the conversation started. I remember a national meeting that UNDP sponsored. We started the process. We couldn't continue along the line because we had no funding, which is usually the issue with it. And then we needed to also support government to do it. And then fast forward to 2021, it was concluded that Women Environmental Program raised funds, and then we completed, with due consultations, we completed the Gender Action Plan, and it was launched. That's perfect. Nigeria was one of those few countries that launched it as a 2020. But then the problem is this: Nigeria is big, a country of almost 275 million people. We have about 35 sub-national states. Local governments like counties. So what am I saying? The issue is at the subnational level, number one, not at the national level anymore. The subnational countries, subnational levels are supposed to adopt that national gender action plan to suit their own peculiarities. Few states have done that now. Few states have done that. Majority are yet to do it. And so you can begin to imagine. That underscores the level of awareness and the priority that they have placed on the issue of gender and climate change. That's number one. Number two, other policy framework. Nigeria is currently implementing the NAP process. And I had the opportunity to support them to conduct a robust gender analysis. All the policies, relevant policies, line policies, were reviewed. And then we also did consultations that pointed out everything where we are right, where we need to increase, attention and all of that. The report is ready. It can be launched any moment from now. That is to support the NAP process. And so moving forward, once the NAP process is gender responsive, I want to believe that countries will get it right. I want to believe that if they also, the subnational levels are able to adapt that, they will also get it right. One of these things that we need to also know and do first is this. Where we come from at the subnational level, up till now, awareness on gender issues is in top because of the cultural, social-cultural norms. But let me say awareness is fast also increasing because of the work of NGOs and then CBOs, working with CBOs at the subnational level. And I give you an instance. I accessed funding from Jeff to implement an innovative farming practices project. That was the second time, the first, and then the second was the upscale. And I got to a community and I told them, this is what these people say. You must have more women. They say, fantastic. In the end, they did the assessment and they gave us even more women than the number Jeff said. For instance, we to have 120, they gave us almost 140. And then immediately the women say, oh, we can't let this go. Because they are farmers, they rely on farming, they have formed clusters. So moving from there, we are now doing a kind of upscale at micro level, a kind of like triggering action on climate change, supporting the women, training them on just innovative farming practice, because there are several other components and we can just do what we can do because the funds are no more there. And forming them into clusters. So with that, we are able to advance. So I will say everything gender responsive, bottom up, and then we need to ensure the frameworks are correct, because the part of the recommendation is that we need to review and incorporate adequately, not just to say and including women. That is it. So we hope that by the time we're able to do that and working in partnership with other NGOs, other partners supporting us, we would be able to advance gender multi-sex.
Thank you. That was very insightful. Thank you so much. So I will move to Patrick. Israel spoke about capacity and all at the community level. So what collaboration is still missing to ensure climate action gets to the grassroots?
Okay, for me, I think the synergy between government and the local community. If you go to some of these communities, you discover that they already have indigenous knowledge on how they are adapting to climate change. I think this knowledge should be institutionalized by government. Promoting this local knowledge will help community people in the grassroots to better understand what climate change is and fight it the way they can. Most times when we bring interventions, these interventions are strange to them. The local woman does not understand how to use a mobile device, right? But she has her own local knowledge that she has been using. So I think if there is a synergy between the government and the people in the grassroots, then we can be able to fight climate change much better.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. The question goes to Israel as well. What collaboration is still missing to ensure climate action at the grassroots?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I talked about the issue around knowledge gap. Can we have system strengthening, local community system strengthening, and technology transfer, knowledge sharing? If the Global South are deficient with the prerequisite knowledge to actually advance in the fight against climate change, I think it's the duty of the Global North to stand up as the big brother who has seen this technology, who uses this technology, to also do technology transfer and not capital flight from the Global South. So if you want to actually want to tackle climate change, this coherence must be there. There must be cross-border collaboration. We have young people who wants to learn these skills, but they don't have the required funding to go learn it over there. So if we could transfer this knowledge back to them, we are talking about clean energy transition. That is what we believe, that's what we are advocating for. If we could have these innovations down to communities, where we are also advocating for a community park, where young people can be trained on solar assembly, solar installation, at the technology value chain of renewable energy. These guys will create more jobs for them. It will help also save their life from using the back route to Europe, where most of them are dying every day. So if you truly love us, if you truly love the environment, if you truly love the planet, it's a duty for everybody from the Global North to begin to see how do we transfer knowledge to the Global South. This is a call to duty. It must not be neglected. If we want to have emotional balance, narrations that mitigate climate change, this collaboration and co-creation must be out. Everybody here in this room, I challenged you. Pick up a project you could do as part of your technology transfer or your knowledge sharing to the Global South. This will help in reducing climate change. And if you did not, we'll continue to tell you all your solutions are false, because it's not in the contextualization of our own community knowledge. We do not understand it. So what we do not know, we refuse. So we'll continue to refuse the solution from the Global North if the Global South are not properly carried along. Now, heavy campaigns are going on for solutions everywhere because these people were not carried along in the design. So you will not be providing a solution for a global mitigative plan, and some set of people are excluded from it. So let's begin to speak truth to power. Let us build that solid synergy. Together we can actually make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. I know we have a very diverse audience, and I know we are all working in our various communities. So we are moving to the audience now. Do you have any question, comment, intervention? Yes, so would like to hear from you. Are we taking all the questions together? Okay, just one. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
And yes, see, that's much better. So my question is to our colleague from Nigeria, and it's about the NAP process. And I work particularly on water and sanitation, which we know is a very important issue for women. And I'm interested to hear to what extent that came up as an issue, and did it end up being part of the NAP or NDC plans?
Thank you very much. Who is the question directed to? Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the extent to which WASH issues came up is that all the policy frameworks, that cut across WASH, agric, all sectors were looked into, were reviewed from the gender dimension, gender perspective. And so I had a rating that I adopted to do that, whereby maybe women were just mentioned, or as in men as well, or where women were just positioned as the most vulnerable, but then also where they didn't take into account the experiences from women, especially as in combating and dealing with the issues, from all of the sectors. And so it was easy to, in the end, give a broad overview of what currently, exists in terms of how gender was mainstreamed in the policy frameworks. So that's what happened. And then the NAP process initially, the entire exercise recognized two milestones that were used to conduct the analysis. Number one was the NASPA, which was developed in 2011. And so it was even difficult to access it because of lack of data here and there. And then fast forward to when we had the Gender Action Plan, that was also reviewed. And then the Gender Action Plan addressed only 5 sectors, but then the NASPA plan was 11 sectors. So on the whole, Nigeria is addressing, I think, 13 priority sectors. And so the analysis put a searchlight on what it is, and so recommendations are like, look, you need to update this policy, you need to do this one, you need to do that one.
Thank you.
So that's what happened. So WASH was adequately covered and reflected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, back to the audience. Do we have any other comments, questions, intervention?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ture. I'm from Papua New Guinea with World Vision, and currently here with the Water for Women Fund, under which we do a project. So we also work in water, sanitation, and hygiene, and our view is that that's also really central to the climate conversation. My brothers and sisters, most of what you have shared is very relatable. It resonates with me. For us in the Pacific Islands, small island states, one of the things that I wanted to just ask is the role of males in the solution of gender, and how you have found that to be in using males as well as the youth, which is a really good approach as well. But for us in patriarchal societies, I know in Africa and also in the Pacific, the males are always, their voices are there. So how do we use the males as part of the solution in terms of a do no harm approach? Because sometimes when we say, yes, females, you come, they always have to check in with the husbands, or that might cause some harm, unintended harm. So what has been your experience? Thank you.
All right, I think we might throw it, but I think I have a little bit of experience I may want to add to that conversation. In the space, we now have men or male who advance the women cause, because we just want that equity. Because, women will care for the men, including their children, including for themselves. So we'll see their opinion. So for us, sometimes what we do, we have now deliberately advanced the cause of the gender and looking at the least part of it, which is young girls and women. So if I'm sending an invitation, for example, to have a stakeholders engagement, the only respect I will give first is the traditional head or the community head. I will say, I will need 2 representatives from the traditional council or the council, 2 representatives from the women must be the women leader and one person, so they know how to bring another strong voice. So if we deliberately include in our invitations, so when you see them, we ask you, okay, who is this woman leader? But sometimes when they come for such meetings, they even come with the wrong identities. So we ask you, okay, the council lead, where is your woman leader? You tell her, are you the woman leader? We confirm. So sometimes, even during stakeholders mapping, an invitation for this kind of meeting, let's be deliberate. In that means they are part of it. So when we are forming our own constituency and our own structure, we ensure that they are all part of it. So that is it. So that kind of deliberate approach, including in policies or setting up committees. So I will want to just throw it quickly also
to the
panel,
panelists, yeah.
to just in 1 minute, just share your thoughts.
You cannot remove gender mainstreaming from all action, because one, the opposite gender, like the female folks, they are in number, so they outnumber the male folks. And two, like for us, we have a gender policy. Every of our activity, we ensure that we strike a balance, 50-50. But if a situation where we do not have the representative, before we now ask for alternative, but that is part of what we do as our culture. So, and also in participation, female gender has also topped the list, because they have this emotional support to ensure anything they believed on worked. So it's a greater tool to drive action. You cannot remove the female folks from achieving results. You want to achieve results quickly in our community, they drive it faster. They are the linkages to the men, and they serve as that driver to communicate to the men. Like when we want to get a chief, there's like a chief in one of our community dialogue on movement building and environmental governance. We couldn't get to the chief, but through the wife, we discussed with the wife, tell her the importance of the program, because there was a pollution site in that area, and what role and not impact it will be if we have the husband in attendance. So she was able to mobilize the husband as a few kingsmen, and they were able to understand what we were teaching, and they took up action for themselves. They wrote policy brief for themselves, and they were now driving actions by themselves. So gender mainstreaming actually play a prerequisite role in achieving climate justice.
Thank you very much. I think I can also relate with what Freeman said about intervention through the traditional leader. So it's not even only to achieve the male counterparts, but to also make the community involved, because if they listen to their traditional head, they kind of buy into the project. Patrick, do you have anything to also add to the discussion? Okay,
to add to what Freeman said, most times when we go to these communities, you will definitely need the permission of the community head. And when you get that approval, you also have the youth representative in the meeting. So you have all of these people in the meeting, so it helps to drive the message across.
Thank you very much.
Yes, if you have any thoughts.
Thank you very much. Just to add that, for us, we adopt a multi-stakeholder sectoral approach to addressing climate action. And though gender is location and context specific, and so within the area we've been working, we've never had an issue like you wouldn't involve women. The traditional leaders as also part of the solution. We've been targeting them. We've been targeting the CBOs, including the faith-based. And in my state, we have a multi-sectoral platform where we work and we engage with all of them. So it's never been an issue. And then because we are also trying to push the message that, look, we must adopt a gender responsive and a multi-sectoral approach to get climate issues sorted out or addressed. That's what we are pushing out, and we've been having results so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Freeman, are we still moving to the, okay. So one more question, comment, intervention. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all the insightful discussions. Mine is quick one. If I look into, I'm Maria from Tanzania. Collaboration and participation, and I'm looking at the policy level and the grassroots linkages. How convenient or how appropriately do you think or you believe it's done in ensuring that policymakers do not assume or do not think civil society are invading their space, and at times community leaders do not perceive we are taking their powers or we are transforming the society from the beliefs and the values that are persisting in their communities?
Thank you very much. Do you have any particular person or anybody can answer?
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay, let me quickly respond to this. To date, we have the issue of civil society engagement. I mean, the awareness, I can say, is high. In the sense that in all of the government ministries and departments, there is what we call the gender desk and the CSO desk in most of them. So they know we are there and they know we are supporting. We've been working with them. We do resource mobilize and work and support their work. So there is that, collaboration between the state and the non-state actors, and increasingly is getting better because they have seen what we are able to do, and so we've been working together and calling. Right now we are supporting some states to put together the multi-stakeholder approach to addressing climate change, which is SDG 13. Thank you.
So quick one, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. The way forward is co-creation. The co-creation initiative is the strategic tool to get everybody on board, including those policymakers. That is why the Open Government Partnership is also driving that. And my country, my state also signed up to that, where everybody should be brought to the same table to bring in input into the issue. So leaving no one behind. And also assure that is where you see policy actually work. Before now, exclusion has been the order of the day, and these policies never see the light of the day. So co-creation initiative is the key.
Thank you. Patrick, please.
So for what we do is whatever intervention we have in the local communities, we try as much as possible to involve the local government. We've encountered issues where you go for interventions and the government feels you're against them. So before we ever enter into any community, we approach the local government to say this is what we are coming to do. We extend the invitation to them, and most of the times they always honor the invitation.
Thank you very much. So I think they deserve a good sharing of applause. But one important discussion I want to have heard here, there is a language of co-creation that Israel brought up. And that is one thing we are advancing seriously on every front. You know, the reason a solution or a climate solution will fail on the ground is to provide action that will bring about a solution on the ground that does not fit or fit well for the people. So we need to do what we need to say, climate assessment. You understand the level of vulnerability and look for adaptive or locally led solutions so that everybody can work together. You know, when we keep using languages, ownership, I cannot own a concept on an idea that I don't have a knowledge about or designed with you. So if I design, I'm part of it. Even if they don't design it, it's a solution that has worked elsewhere. We are trying to transfuse or transfer. You should be able to bring their level. That kind of early participation and inclusiveness works of all the gender. Young people have energy. Women have the passion, including the intelligence. The men are there. It is this identity of everybody that will bring the necessary climate solution. So, climate actions that will bring the right solution must be the ones that are co-created, that are people-oriented and locally led, because that is where the problem is. Let's solve the problem of humanity, or at the local level or at all level, with an idea that they have co-created. Traditional knowledge is key, and inclusive participation is key. So this is our message today. We have said, if we want to do, we have diverse multi-stakeholders inclusivity. If we are more, every gender has its own aspect. So our time on this event is what we have. So we want to say thank you very much for coming, and want to thank the panelists for their insights. So you can interact with them as best as you can, and we are hopeful, but we want to say a big thank you to UNFCCC for giving us this opportunity to have this kind of conversation at this time. We are hopeful in the future. We want to see that the solutions that have been profiled can change even in the smallest place in our community. Thank you very much. So we'll need a photograph maybe with the panelists who are here. So if you want to be part of it, you could just come to